friends, so today we are talking all about watercolor and your Cricut. So have you tried the new watercolor pens yet? So there are, actually these are markers, there are 8 to a set, and so you have 8 different colors and a watercolor pen. And so what we're going to do today is we are going to use these. I'm going to show you how to do it as a beginner, watercolor as a beginner, and we are going to make 4 different cards with these pens. I think you're really going to love it. So let's go ahead and pop over to the craft table and let me show you what it's all about. By the way, if you're new here, you're crafting with Kim Byers. Okay, so here we are on the craft table, and these are the things that we're going to use today. So we have the Cricut Card Kits. These are watercolor card kits, and it does have to be watercolor paper. It's very thick, like 140 pound. And I also have a stack of watercolor paper. I got that at Hobby Lobby along with the watercolor marker and brush set. Comes with 8 markers and a watercolor brush. And then I also have regular Cricut pens, and I have my 4x4 card mat. So we're going to have 2 cards that we're going to do on the card mat, and then we're actually going to do 2 cards on the regular green mat. So let's go ahead and move everything out of the way. Okay, so here we are in Cricut Design Space, and I've gone ahead and set up 4 different cards. So I have 2 that we're going to draw on card kits, like the Cricut card kits, and 2 that we're going to put onto watercolor paper. So I'm just going to turn off those 2 cards because we're not going to be using these. Actually, I'm going to turn off all the cards because we're not going to cut the other ones either, but I wanted to show you guys that those 2 have an outline around them. So if we send them to the mat, what you're going to see is these are the 2 that are going to be on cards. So we're going to change that mat to a card mat. And now with the 4 up card mat, we want to move this 1 card over to the right down below the first card, because when you're only doing 2 cards, you only want to take the sleeve off of 1. And so when we get back to the craft table, I'll show you that. So now what we want to do is just go ahead and continue on these 2 cards, and we'll choose our base material. And for these, we're going to use the insert cardstock. So we'll just select that, and then it tells us which pens are first to go. Okay, so before we pop back to the craft table, I wanted to show you these 2. So these 2, we're not cutting the card, we're not putting them on a card, we're actually going to put them on paper and cut them out. And so what we're going to do is when we hit make it on these, they're going to go to a normal green mat. And so I wanted to show you this, so this is how you don't do it. If you just send them to mat without attaching them, that's what you're going to get, just tons of little pieces. So we're going to grab the entire butterfly, and we're going to go down and hit attach, and then we're going to do this for the other and hit attach. And so now when we send that to the mat, you're going to have 2 butterflies where everything is going to draw and write on each of those. So we'll select continue, and now we get to choose our material. Now make sure that you do not choose insert cards like you did when we were drawing on the actual card. This time we're cutting the card. So we want to go past cardstock all the way down to paper, and we're going to choose a heavy watercolor paper, 140 pounds. Make sure you do this, otherwise your Cricut is not going to cut through that watercolor paper. So go ahead and select done, and let's make a card. Okay, so let's start with our watercolor kits. So these we're not going to cut, we are just going to draw on these. So we're going to open these up and put these on to our 4x4 card mat. So just remember there's that little protective sleeve. You want to pop that up and put your card underneath it, moving it all the way to the edge. And then we're going to put a second one on vertically, because there is that sleeve covering that would be over to our right. So if we're not doing 4 cards, we're going to leave that sleeve on the other side. And so now we're going to put these in, and we're going to pop it into the Cricut machine, just following the color prompts. We're going to draw both of our designs on our cards. Okay, so I will be honest with you guys, at this point, I'm liking the cards just the way they are. I'm almost nervous to do the watercolor. But so that you know, and I will post the link to the Cricut Design Space files down below in the description, so you can grab these exact ones. These are just in Cricut Design Space, but they are drawn with both watercolor and with pen. The watercolor markers are actually they're markers, so that's going to be the bolder area that you see. And then the font there that you see is Hello Darling. So I just grabbed some really cute butterflies and then added some text to it. So you want to be real gentle when you take these off of the mat, bend the mat if you need to, and just pop up your card. And so then we'll put the mat to the side, Those turned out so great, guys. I love them actually just the way they are. Okay, so next up we're going to use watercolor paper, and we're going to put that on a green mat, and we are going to just make watercolor drawings and then cut that out with the Cricut. We are going to then take that and apply it to a card. I'm going to show you how to do that and make it kind of like pop off the card in 3D. But this could just be a normal watercolor art print too that you could frame. You could do all kinds of things with this watercolor paper. And I picked this up at Hobby Lobby and got it on 40% off sale. So it only cost me, I think, like $4. And just like with the cards, we draw first, but unlike the cards, we're actually going to cut this one. So once you get done with all of your colors and your Cricut will cut out your design, we unload that and see how great this turned out. I mean, if you were just using pens, this would be absolutely beautiful. But now remember to bend your mat and not your material, and so your butterflies will pop right off. Okay, so now let's move everything out of the way, and I'm going to put some wax paper down just to protect my table. And so we have 4 different elements. We have 2 cards and then 2 embellishments that are going to go onto a card. So again, I have said this before, but I'm actually just happy with them exactly how they are. That said, let's go ahead and make some improvements. So we're going to take that water pen that is inside of your Cricut watercolor pen set, and you're just going to unscrew the end and add some water to it. It's that simple. And then just gingerly, carefully go around and color inside and paint inside. And if you mess up, you can use a Q-tip and kind of blot away. Or if you think you got too much ink and you want to take some of that off, Q-tip is great for that too. And so just work the watercolor around, taking your time. So if you are in a hurry to make a card, watercolor cards are not the card for you. But if you just want to take your time and make something beautiful, this is it. I'm going to keep working on that one, and I'll show you more about that in a moment. And so for the next one, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to pull all of that color into the middle of the card. And so we are just going to work from the edges and pull inward. You could work from the edges and pull out. And then for this card, these are some lessons learned, guys. So the interior is not watercolor ink, but look how it bleeds, right? But it's not the same. So unfortunately, I'm kind of like washing away my design. So what I think I would do differently is that I would just be very ginger on those edges. Now, when you have something that happens like this on your card, just keep working with it. Keep playing with it until you get it to be something you want it to be. And I just kept working and working, and let me show you how that came out. One of the things I'm loving about watercolor is there's no perfection. Just enjoy the process. Okay, so now that we've worked with all 4 cards and we've gotten a little bit better, that's the thing, just a little bit better each time, let's go ahead and make those elements into cards. So we're going to put foam adhesive squares on the backs of the design, and then we are going to add that to our card. Now this could be a watercolor card, or you could just put it on a normal card that you either made or one of the other card kits. And look how beautiful that came out. I love that it's got that little pop, that little 3D effect. I think this might be my favorite, and you'll see that I used the pens and put some more detail into the butterflies as well. And if you're wondering why butterfly cards, basically there is no like real reference, I don't guess, of butterflies in the Bible, but it is a very remarkable illustration from nature of the transforming work of Jesus in the lives of believers. The Bible actually says that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new creation, and the old life is gone and the new life has begun. You can find that in 2 Corinthians 5:17. And that's the same God who takes a caterpillar and changes it into a butterfly. He transforms sinners like me into better people every day. Thanks for crafting with me, and if you love cards, make sure you check out my other card videos. See you next time!